For this video, I want to go over what I believe is the ultimate super plant for any planted aquarium. It's cheap, readily available, easy to grow in almost any tank and provides a ton of practical benefits. That's why you'll find Rotala rotundifolia in so many of my planted tanks. Right now I have it in my 40-gallon community tank, my new 29-gallon Wallstad tank, my 25-litre Wallstad tank and even a filterless shrimp jar. On top of that, over the last few years I've also grown it in a bunch of different aquarium setups without issue, and it's proven to be a hit time and time again. So starting off, I want to go over how Rotala rotundifolia is a great option for keeping your water parameters safe and stable and protecting your fish while also minimizing algae growth. Research shows that it helps to remove excess phosphorus as well as excess nitrogen compounds such as ammonium, ammonia, nitrite and nitrate that can potentially harm fish and cause algae blooms. It's especially good at using up ammonium, which can turn into toxic ammonia by releasing its extra hydrogen ion in higher pH tanks, so having Rotala in your tanks can help prevent dangerous ammonia spikes. On top of that, the researchers found that Rotala rotundifolia was actually averaging an absorption rate of 45% of the total nitrogen compounds in the test tank, with this including both toxic ammonia and toxic nitrite that can harm your fish, shrimp and potentially snails. What makes Rotala rotundifolia stand out is that it continues to absorb these nutrients even in cooler water temperatures. This is a big advantage for unheated or room temperature tanks, which are increasing in popularity due to the costs of heating tropical aquariums. My personal experience backs this up as well, but research has confirmed that they found that Rotala rotundifolia still absorbed a lot of excess nutrients in cooler temperatures. A really good example of this is my room temperature filterless shrimp jar. The Limnophila sessiliflora and Ludwigia palustrus both stopped growing during the winter, but I've had to trim the Rotala rotundifolia twice already, and as you can see it is due another trim. The same goes for my 29-gallon Wallstad tank, where the Rotala has just continued to grow at around 18 degrees Celsius or 64 degrees Fahrenheit, but the Limnophila in here has basically melted back and the remaining Limnophila is having problems. I keep my guppy tank at around 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter, and I really didn't notice any decline in the growth rate of the Rotala rotundifolia in this tank compared to the warmer summer months. If we check the Q plant database, you'll see that the plant's native range starts as far south as India and goes all the way up to Japan. This means it should be fine in most room temperature tanks and heated tanks regardless of your location due to how much of a range this plant naturally covers. The next reason I think Rotala rotundifolia is a super plant is its ability to absorb heavy metals in your aquarium directly from the water column. 2 independent peer-reviewed research papers have confirmed its ability to do this now, and some of the heavy metals that it has been proven to absorb can become toxic to both fish and shrimp, especially at high levels. Now this aquarium hasn't had a water change in 5 months, but its TDS remains consistent within the range for guppies and cherry shrimp without increasing. Now credit where it's due, the duckweed on the surface of the tank will be a major contributor to this because it uses up a ton of TDS, but I know a lot of people hate having duckweed in their tanks. But as you can see, there's an absolute ton of Rotala rotundifolia in the back of this tank, which is a great alternative helping to manage heavy metal buildup and keep your fish and shrimp safe. Now there is a common myth in the hobby that TDS will just continue to climb in a tank without water changes if you just do water top-ups, but this is not true provided you choose the right plants. Some people manage their TDS buildup with water changes while others manage it by removing excess plant growth, and both can work perfectly fine. That said, if you are new to the hobby and don't have a TDS meter to monitor the reading, then I probably would still recommend you do partial water changes just for that extra layer of protection for your fish, shrimp and snails. Now in tropical aquariums, research has shown that other fast-grown stem plants such as Hygrophila polysperma can edge out ahead of Rotala rotundifolia when it comes to heavy metal absorption, but in a cooler aquarium Rotala rotundifolia pushes ahead. So the next next reason I think Rotala rotundifolia is an excellent plant is its moderate growth rate, and this can be a huge advantage if you're looking to create a low maintenance planted aquarium. Unlike faster grown stem plants like Limnophila sessiliflora, pearlweed, or pretty much any type of hygrophila, Rotala usually only needs trimming once every month or two instead of weekly. But some people argue that the slow growth rate means that it won't absorb as many nutrients as these other options. Now this might be true on a per stem basis, but Rotala rotundifolia is super easy to propagate, and you just trim the top off the plant and replant it in the substrate for a new plant to grow. This lets you create a larger Rotala rotundifolia forest like in this tank that can handle your tank's bioload without having to have constant trimming. So instead of having fewer stems of faster grown plants that need trimming every week, you build out a larger forest of multiple stems that need trimming once every month or two. In my experience, this has been a great balance between keeping nutrient levels in check while also keeping maintenance requirements as low as possible for the tank. The next reason I think Rotala rotundifolia is a super plant is that it's been extremely easy to grow in my tanks regardless of what I put it in. Now there is some controversy around this, but I honestly think it's because of the confusion with both Rotala indica and Rotala rotundifolia being confused back in the 1960s. True Rotala rotundifolia is a very beginner friendly plant that will thrive in a wide range of aquarium setups from different water parameters to varying light levels, and it's usually listed as an easy category plant by plant nurseries. But Rotala indica can definitely be more demanding, and it doesn't tend to do as well in some tank conditions, and it's usually listed as a medium category plant by most established plant nurseries. Although the initial mix-up between the two plants was way back in the 1960s, I still see people on social media getting the wrong plant with their order. If you are here in Europe, you can use reputable plant nurseries like Tropica, Denale, Aquaflora, Stoffels and Aquafleur, and you probably have a good chance of getting real Rotala rotundifolia. I've kept Rotala rotundifolia in aquasoil tanks, dirted tanks, tanks with cheap lighting, tanks with high lighting, tanks with low pH and GH, and tanks with high pH and GH. As I mentioned earlier as well, I've kept it in both tropical tanks and room temperature tanks, and it just doesn't seem to have an issue regardless of what I do with it. One of the best things about Rotala rotundifolia is how easy it is to maintain. I know I touched on this one earlier, and I'd say it has a medium growth rate compared to some of the other popular stem plants in the hobby, but this just means that you need to trim it less frequently. Another advantage is that Rotala rotundifolia is a true stem plant, unlike something commonly confused as a stem plant such as Vallisneria, which is actually a stolon plant and will spread via runners. Here's an example of another stolon plant which is Helanthium telenum green, and it's far shorter than Vallisneria, but it'll get the point across. As you can see on the screen, these little stolons or runners go from plant to plant, and the plant just keeps on making new baby plants over and over again, spreading out horizontally and eventually overtaking your aquarium. Now Vallisneria can be a beginner friendly plant, but it can quickly take over your tank both horizontally with the vertical plant growth as the leaves get longer, and horizontally as the little stolons continue to spread. With Rotala rotundifolia, all you need to do is trim the tops of the stems from time to time as required, and there's no runners to worry about. But with Vallisneria, you need to manage both vertical and horizontal growth, increasing maintenance time. This makes Rotala very handy for dirt cap tanks because its growth is predictable. It's going to go straight up, making it very easy to keep your capping layer intact. Now to be fair, Rotala does usually create two new stems at the point of trimming, and this can be an advantage in certain tanks and it can be a disadvantage in other tanks. The main advantage of this is that it lets you get the thick forest look that I like in some of my aquariums, but the main disadvantage is that once this forest look gets thick enough, it can prevent light penetration getting to the bottom of the stem and potentially cause problems. Moving on to the next reason that I like Rotala rotundifolia, and that's its ability to change colour depending on light intensity. This is very rare for plants as easy as this to grow, but you will need a higher powered light to take advantage of it. Here's an example with this tank that uses a cheap low powered light that I link in the video description, as I personally think it's the best cheap light on the market, but as you can see, the Rotala holds its green hues. Then we switch over to this tank that's using a slightly more expensive moderate intensity light that I link link in the description and you can see the Rotala is starting to get some pink hues. Higher your light intensity, the stronger these hues become, and this tank even has duckweed above it that's blocking out a lot of light, but the plant is still developing that nice pink colour. If you look at the other easy to grow stem plants, you're usually restricted to a solid green colour regardless of your lighting, but Rotala does let you get a slightly different colour in your tank with relative ease. Anyway guys, that brings the video to an end. I hope it's been helpful. I just wanted to put this out there and try and help people realise how great Rotala rotundifolia actually is. It's been an excellent plant in every single tank I've kept it in, and it's worked in a wide range of water parameters, so it's definitely worth trying out. Thanks for watching the video and have a good day guys.